3 decades of emergency rule in the Arab world's biggest nation. Is there any hope for democracy in Egypt? We'll speak to the Nobel Peace Prize winner who wants to run in next year's presidential election. Are you able to run? What do you have to do to make yourself a viable candidate?
Well, I'm organizing, Christian, a grassroots movement to push the government, to send the government a clear message that they need to change the constitution. They need to join the rest of the world in becoming a democracy. And hopefully, you know, between now and the time of the election, the autumn of next year, we should be able to get the government to understand that maintaining the status quo is a dead-end street. We have, Ben Widman mentioned, I have 150,000 people on the Facebook. They are active now 300,000 people. In a country with penetration to the internet of 18%, it speaks again volume of the thirst for change in Egypt, left, right, and center.
So 300,000 people, that's still not really, it's kind of a drop in the ocean when you're talking about a population of 80 million and a potential voting population. And so just finally, how do you plan to do this, to mobilize all these masses that you're obviously going to need if you have any hope of being a viable candidate, especially when I'm understanding that you don't really have an official staff or even an official headquarters?
Well, it's very funny because for the people, I'm a real agent for change. For the regime, I'm a virtual person. I can't even have a headquarters. I can't raise funds. But we have a lot of volunteers. We have a lot of young volunteers everywhere in the country right now, canvassing for change, explaining to people how change will impact on their economic and social life. So there is still a lot of hope. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it will play out.
On that note, we'll be watching. Mohammed Al-Baradei, thank you so much for joining us. We're joined now by Ahmed Ez, one of the leading members of President Mubarak's National Democratic Party. Let me first ask you, why is there no clear succession?
Well, I would, if you allow me, I would first like to respond to some of the interesting remarks of Dr. El-Baradei on your program, Christian. Because in fact, Egypt is going through a very exciting time. And Egypt is developing in almost every walk of life. And the political diversity taking place in Egypt today is unseen, unwitnessed in my generation.
Well, let's talk about that.
Dr. El-Baradei is a welcome... Yes, Dr. El-Baradei is a highly respected Egyptian, is a welcome participant in this vibrant political debate. He has a clear path to run for president in 2011 if he so chooses.
Mr. Ez, we were talking about the political situation and who and how they can run for office. I want to know how you're going to have some political pluralism and whether or not somebody such as Mr. El-Baradei will be able to run. And let me ask you why I ask this. Because somebody, indeed, Mr. Amr Moussa, head of the Arab League, and who's sometimes mentioned as a potential presidential candidate, has said, when asked whether he will run, the road to the presidency is blocked. How do you answer that?
As I was explaining earlier before the technical glitch, our constitution anchors politics in political parties with clear political platforms. There are 24 parties in Egypt. Any of these parties can field candidates in 2011. Half of these parties, for example, have asked Dr. El-Baradei to be their candidate of choice. Dr. El-Baradei hesitates, preferring instead to run as an independent. My party, the NDP, has made it clear that it welcomes Dr. El-Baradei to join the political fray. I wish Dr. El-Baradei will do that, because in that situation, he will have to make his position clear on many issues. I have heard Dr. El-Baradei says that he is allying with a huge coalition of Egyptians, when in fact he is allying himself with a fringe coalition, either of the extreme left, nurturing old, tried, tested, and failed policies of the 60s, or with an extreme right-wing Muslim brothers who are nurturing democracy a la Ahmadinejad.
Let me break in there, Mr.
What I want
Ez.
to make clear is, Christian,
well, you made yourself very clear,
Mr.
Ez.
If you allow me to...
Let me just ask you, look, for the last 5 times that Mr. Mubarak has run, he's basically been nominated by Parliament, the sole candidate, and then confirmed by a popular referendum. And as you explained, there was a change made under heavy American pressure over the last time in 2005. But it depends entirely on whether one of these legal parties that you talk about actually chooses to nominate somebody, right?
But Dr. El-Baradei has been asked by half of the parties to be their candidate of choice. He has a clear path to run for president in 2011. It appears to me that the only obstacle to a Dr. El-Baradei candidacy is Dr. El-Baradei himself.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. You say that he wants to run as an independent and that that's not possible, but the Muslim Brotherhood had to run as independents last time. The other big question is, obviously, this state of emergency, these special emergency powers that have been in effect for nearly 30 years, are clearly having a major effect on the ability to conduct politics or political life. Is there any hope of this emergency law being amended or being put aside, and a special anti-terrorism law coming in, as you say, has been debated? Because it's affecting all aspects of life in Egypt.
Christian, that is inaccurate. In this heightened level of security awareness in the world, every country is grappling with how better to protect its citizens, including Egypt, and it has always been controversial. You have your Patriot Act. Our emergency law is our Patriot Act. That has only and exclusively been used to either combat terror or to avert the threat of terror. In no way has it been used to suppress either political or social or economic life. Of late, we have uncovered plots by Hezbollah, cells by Hezbollah in Egypt, plots to attack vessels in the Suez Canal. So basically, it's Code Red Alert in Cairo, 365 days of the year. We look forward to a day when we do away with the emergency law that, again, is our Patriot Act, only used to combat terrorism, but that will only happen when the Middle East is at peace with itself.
Oh my
and
goodness.
Then we at the NDP will be the first to want to do away with that law.
All right, now that may be a very long time from now, and everybody understands that the fight against terrorism globally has to go ahead. But the question is then, why are some of these laws used to crush political rallies, for instance, as happened earlier this month when the police really did break up in a harsh way what was a peaceful rally? Why does that have to happen?
Christian, walking into my parliamentary chambers, if I can use the term, every day, I am in my face faced with good Egyptians who are demonstrating en bloc for either political or economic or other grievances every day in my life, in parliament that is. So that caricature image of an Egypt that is stifling dissent, with no plurality, with no freedom of expression, is far from the mark. There are at least, at last count, 240 publications in Egypt, 15 TV networks. Dr. El-Baradei, for example, the little time that he is in Egypt, last time that is, has appeared on almost every newspaper of reference, on the front page, continued to hold political rallies, has visited the Al-Azhar Mosque, has been on every single talk show. So, I mean, that notion of combating by force political dissent or political pluralism in Egypt is not true.
All right, Mr.
There
Ez.
may be an aberration now and then from either side.
Mr. Ez, on that note, thank you very much indeed for joining us.